Hey, and welcome to today's show. If you have experienced any of my previous stuff through Pride Landscapes or Pride Flowers, then this is going to be a little bit different. Well, it'll be quite a bit different because we're not going to have the same restricted palette. We will be going into this as a bigger painting. For example, I will be giving you the colors and telling you some about what we're doing. So today we are doing a mountain scene, which is kind of where I learned a lot of my trade from doing. We will be using titanium white, cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, sap green, light green, burnt sienna, lamp black, Mars black. And the reason for the two blacks is, well, simply because I ended up dropping one of the tubes. And we will be starting a video very shortly of showing exactly what we will be doing. So come along and join with me. And this will be both a podcast and a video. And I'm going to try and describe what I'm doing the best I can so that you can follow along either way that you're listening or watching. So we start with our paint already on the canvas. I put ultramarine blue on the bottom, cerulean above it, and titanium white above that. And if you watch my previous series, you will know that I use a palette knife a lot, but not today. This is a different type of tutorial, and we're going to be using a nice medium flat brush. With that brush, what we're going to do is we're simply coming in, and we're starting to just get that paint down. If you're using canvas, you're just trying to push it into the canvas. I'm using cardboard, so I'm just trying to get it locked into the cardboard. And I'm going in nice, gentle stroking patterns, kind of long. You don't want it too short because we're trying to blend this in really nice. And I'm just going from the top to the bottom, leaving the section over in the left because when I come in, that might help create the kind of cloud-like structure. And just keep blending. Nice, long, gentle strokes. You want to push it in, but you don't want to be too strong either. And what we're doing is we're trying to push it down further, I would say at least a third to halfway down your canvas or your cardboard like I'm using. And just keep going until you're happy with it. Make sure you don't overwork it. We are trying to make this look a little bit realistic. So you do want to have, you want some of that natural gradient. But at the same time, I'm going for this nice wispy kind of cloud look. I will not be adding clouds into this because the titanium white mixed with the blues should hopefully help make this kind of wispy cloud structure like you'd see in the distance. And so far, so good. So just keep brushing it down, fanning it out, mixing it all together. Now when we're done with that, I've mixed a little titanium white and some of my black, and I have just started dabbing that onto part of the sky. Remember, the paint's still wet, so you need to be a little careful, but this is what we want. And I'm just dabbing that on. I'm going to take an angled palette knife and just quickly drag that down. We're trying to make a natural mountain shape. It's not got to be perfect. It's just got to have that kind of sharp, angular, mountainous look. And remember, with the paint being wet, it's going to essentially try and mix a little bit. What I'm doing instead, though, is I'm just scraping it carefully as I can. And you're going to get these kind of splotches in between, but that's fine. Take some more of your paint. You can either take it straight from your palette, or you can use your brush to put it onto your palette knife, and just keep going at it. And you're going to make what looks like a mess to start with. You're going to sit there and you're going to think, oh no, what have I done? I'm making this horrible looking mess. But no, you're not. It's all part of the process, and you got to trust that process. And for me, I'm after at least 3 points here. 2 taller, 1 shorter, and I'm just doing the same process until I get kind of roughly the shape I'm looking for. And once you're happy with this kind of gray mix, you can then start thinking more about adding darker bits and lighter bits. So I've already started adding some titanium white into the highlighted areas. So this could be either your snow caps, or this could be your just the lighter side of the mountain reflecting light. And I should point out, I took just a tiny, tiny drop of cerulean blue and mixed it in with my titanium white. The reason being is that we don't want this extreme pure white. You want that for your clouds. The sky has got a blue tone to it, so the blue will naturally come out with it. Now I'm using just a little bit of black and gray just to start adding in more of the shading. We want this darker side. I now know where I want it to be lighter. So instead of doing that first, we'll do that last. So let's add in some shadows. Let's just bulk these mountains out some. As you can see there, if you're watching the video, some of the back of the mountain came off and you can see the blue underneath. That's all part of the process. It will happen. It does mean that you potentially press too hard, or you might even have too much paint on your palette knife. So I'm just loading up my palette knife with this black again and going straight back in, and I'm touching up these shadow regions. I'm trying to give this really deep shadow that you're going to see on the side of a mountain. And at the moment it's still going to look a mess. And that's fine, but we can always start to see mountains coming up. Now with this cerulean blue laced titanium white, we're doing exactly the same thing. Loading up on your palette knife, putting it down, and gently but quickly scraping it down. And remember, you're going to want that lighter side to match on your mountain faces because, of course, the way the light works in nature, you're going to have that lighter side on all sides because it's just how the sun is shining it. And the joy of using a palette knife like this is it gives you these natural crags and kind of rocky faces, so you don't have to put as much work into it. Although, I guess after doing this, you might think it is a lot of work, but to me, it's a lot less work than if we're using just a brush. Once we're done with our palette knife, we will go into the mountains with the same flat brush we used earlier. Of course, you want to clean it first. And we're just going to blend in some of the bits where you can see blue that you don't want to see blue. But first, we're just looking over everything, make sure we're happy with it. As you can see, I wasn't, so I'm putting in just a little extra Mars Black and Lamp Black. I just want this bit of the mountain to be that little bit heavier, that little bit darker, a little bit more foreboding. And this is going to be the mountain closest to us, so you want it to be that little bit more imposing than you would the ones in the background. And painting like this, it's not going to be photorealistic, but that's not what we're looking for. I want to teach you how to paint in preferably less than 30 minutes a really, really nice piece. And by the end of this, I think you'll see that that's what we have achieved. And I hope you feel encouraged to go and paint a piece yourself. And if you do, I would absolutely love it if you could tag me on my social medias and let me see what you did. If I inspired you, please let me know. I learned how to paint by watching others and just experimenting and working on my craft. There's one particular painter, which I don't want to name at the minute because I'm not sure I can, but they had a very big influence over me. And maybe it's a little vain of me, but I hope I can have that kind of influence for other people. What you're seeing me doing here, or if you're listening, I'm taking some more gray and I'm just touching up around the back of these two bigger mountains where there's some bits of paint that kind of don't look right because they're kind of floating. And I'm kind of making it out like it's grayer mountains in the back. And just touching up bits here and there and just making sure this gray kind of comes through. Make sure there's no blue bits sticking up in the mountains. Adding a little bit of rocky face texture and the shadow just to kind of show where the light might be shining through some. After all, mountains should be a little bit imposing looking. Now, what we want to do, once we get done with touching the mountains up, and you have to learn to stop at some point or you'll just end up messing it up, is we're going to take the same flat brush. We want to make sure that it's fairly dry, and we're going to start smudging the bottom of the mountains out. And what that will do is it's going to give us an almost misty look. Kind of like, when you have early morning or sometimes even late evening and that mist kind of starts coming up around the mountains. And by smudging this out and kind of blurring this whole bottom bit, it hides all of the sharper features at the bottom that we don't necessarily want to show in the painting, but it also gives us really, really nice kind of setting for our foliage, our trees, and that kind of thing. And I'm going through a mixture of long strokes and circle strokes just to kind of smoke this out a little bit, make it misty, and it will look, trust me, it will look so much better for it. So what we'll be moving on to next is doing some trees. I'm using the same flat brush that I've been using. You just want to clean it off, and I've mixed in a little bit of sap green with a little bit of burnt sienna just to kind of tone down that green a little bit and make it a little bit more earthy. Using the tip of your flat brush, you're going to want to just take it and kind of dab in these taller trees. Don't make it too neat. Don't make it too orderly because, trees all grow at different heights and in different ways. But you want to go in a line and kind of add this tree line in the background. This is our nice forest that all the little critters and stuff's going to be living in. And you can already see where we smoked out and blurred out that line around the mountains to kind of just smudge it and make it misty. The trees are standing out so much better around it. And we just keep going all the way across. Now, you can do what you want to do, of course, but on mine, once I get to the other side here, on to the left, I've left a slightly bigger bit of the blank cardboard. So this is going to give me the ability to start making a bigger tree. And this tree will be kind of in the mid-ground. And it's going to play an important part later of helping break apart the scene and setting up all of the distance. And I'm just going back over the trees until I'm happy. Again, you don't want them all exactly the same. You want them to kind of have some life of their own, some character of their own. Now, we're going to take this brush and just keep going until we're happy. And once we are happy, we will take some light green and we're just going to touch over the tops of them. You can see where the highlights of the mountains are. So we know that the sun is facing these mountains. And that means that the trees are also going to have highlights, just like our mountains. And where the light will be touching the mountains is exactly the same where the light's going to be touching your trees. So adding just a little bit of this sap green will go a long way. You just want a little bit. You don't want to drown out the color or make it look like the sun's right in front of them because, of course, the sun's up in the sky. I should mention also that yellow is on the palette. Can't remember if I mentioned that or not. If I didn't, I apologize. You can pause the video or the podcast at any point and please go get your yellow paint. And with the bigger tree, the one that's in the mid-ground, we're just adding some texture to it and making it look more realistic. Now when we're done, I'm doing the exact same thing as I did with the mountains. I'm kind of blurring out with a smudging technique using my flat brush, because this bit here, we're going to turn this into like kind of like a little pond, maybe a small lake. And we're just going in long strokes and we're doing circle strokes just to make this green come out into the landscape. You could also use this technique to do kind of like a grass look, but today we're doing a pond. Because who doesn't like trees, mountains, and bodies of water together? It has such a beautiful scene. It's one of my favorite scenes to paint, and I have painted dozens of this kind of scene. And just keep smudging. Bring it all the way down. You want to go until it feels like the paint ain't going to move anymore. And now for me, this is a little too green for water. So I'm going to add a bit of that cerulean blue titanium white mixture into it. Kind of going at it like waves, but it won't continue to look that way because I'm going to blur and smudge and all the same like we did earlier. And this is going to make a slightly odd color. In hindsight, doing this again, I probably would be best doing it like waves. But at the end of the day, I actually kind of like the kind of greenish teal color that comes from it. Kind of suggests that maybe this is kind of early spring when there's still snow in the mountains and everything's just kind of melting away. And some of your green's going to start coming through. And I'm just trying to use a circle stroke to blend that in with the blue we just put on to kind of match where the mountain is. And now if you're listening to this on podcast instead of watching, simply go with what feels best and you will still make a good painting. Don't think that just because you can't see it that you can't follow along, because trust me, you can, and you will still make some amazing work. I'm going back in with a little bit of extra green just to add the trees back in, and we want them to look like, the water is kind of, well, if you've seen reflections in water, it's got that shimmer, it's kind of got that distortion. We're going to go over with a brush and just add that back in so that the trees are slightly lighter. They're kind of distorted looking with the water, and that's going to make the scene look so much better. Now just keep adding in until I'm happy with that. Again, be very careful not to overwork this. It'll be extremely easy to overwork it, and we don't want that. We're not going for photorealism, but we do want it to look a little realistic. Now I am just straightening up and tidying up this shoreline. We're just going to have a bit more of a flat surface to it. And taking a little bit of the titanium white, we're going to make a line that goes all the way across the lake. But we're going to be doing that later, just in case we add more texture and details in. At the moment, we're mixing in a combination of sap green, light green, and yellow. And this is going to be our vegetation in the foreground. So this at the minute is being just dabbed on with the same flat brush, again, cleaned and dried. And we're just looking to make it like, kind of like a bushy structure. Being gentle, being careful not to blend it into anything in the background. And this kind of yellowish color really helps break apart the whole scene. It's kind of more of a lively green than, say, the trees. And you see that in nature quite often. You see the foliage and everything has a more yellowish green to it. And it's a nice, very spring color, I think. It's that suggestion that everything's literally springing into life. And at the moment, I'm on the left side of the painting, doing the exact same thing, but this time I'm trying to make it kind of look like weeds or maybe some kind of tall grass more than a bush like on the right side. But we want it all to look together like it sits fine, like it's meant to be. And you can see it It's all starting to bring everything together. We have the foreground, the midground, the background, and the far background of the mountains. And it's given so much perception, well, I should say depth perception, to this painting. And it's such a simple way of doing it. Just literally dabbing the paint on. And using a little bit of my burnt sienna, we're just going to add some woody brown areas at the foreground. So maybe this is some kind of like dying off or dead weeds. But we're going to use the same color in the midground and the foreground just to add some woody parts to our trees. So if the bigger tree in the midground, and we'll add some of the stem and the branches. For the trees in the background, we're just going to very, very gently use it to add kind of like the trunk structures. You don't want to see much, just a little bit. I'm just using it just to kind of dab everything in and bring out so much more detail to this painting. And again, just because we're not doing photorealistic doesn't mean it can't be realistic. And that's what we're aiming for. So using a little bit more of this paint, we're just gently going over some of these trees in the background with the very tip of our brush. And now we're doing the same with the tree in the midground. Just adding in some branches, some kind of rougher looking bits. Maybe winter was a little rough for this poor tree. And adding in some detailing just to make it look more realistic. Again, just gently dabbing it on. Once we're happy with these little trees, we're going to finish off our water. Because we're almost done, believe it or not. Using just a little bit of the sienna before we add our white. We're going to go and make a shoreline. This will help everything stand out just a little bit better. Now using our titanium white, we're going to be coming in and making a line. And this time I've swapped brush, and I'm using a finer tip. And I'm just going in and making this line, not all the way around the shoreline, but in bits, just to kind of show where the light's reflecting, like this is where the water begins. And we're going to use the same brush and very similar technique to make some lines on the water as if there's some movement there from the wind and as if it's shimmering in the sun. And I'll give you a little tip here. When you're putting it down, you're going to want to, if let's say it looks a bit too thick, use your finger. Just gently use your finger and kind of smudge it out. And it'll make that really nice, kind of natural look. And we are almost there. Just adding in these little lines. And then we're going to sign it. And again, with these lines, I'm going to use my finger in a minute to smudge some of them. And with that, yeah, only thing really left to do is to sign it. I hope that you have enjoyed today's tutorial, and we'll come back with the next one. And if you are listening via podcast, I hope I gave enough clear instructions so you too could follow along and paint along with us. It's kind of my dream to be able to teach more people to paint the way I learned. And with that, I hope you enjoyed yourself. I enjoyed myself painting this for you. And yeah, if I have inspired you, like I said at the start of the video, or podcast, whichever way you're listening or watching, then please do tag me on social medias and let me see. Thank you, and come back next time. And if you've been waiting around to find out what the painting looks like, if you're watching video that is, then here we are. And if you're listening to this on podcast, you will be able to see the photo of what it looks like on my Patreon. So again, thank you, and be sure to come back to the next episode and let's paint all over again.